Of Air Force One. It has just touched down in Connecticut. U.S. President Donald Trump will be giving remarks at the United States Coast Guard Academy. It is their graduation ceremony. He will be making a speech. The band has been playing. A welcoming reception is waiting there on the tarmac, and he will proceed down those stairs in just a few moments. We'll keep an eye on that, as well as the comments he'll be making in a short time. Now, moving on, we're also told at least some of the information that Donald Trump shared with Russian officials in the Oval Office last week was provided by Israel. Now, that's according to U.S. and diplomatic sources. Israel and the U.S. have a long history of sharing intelligence. Could this incident change that? Well, let's go to Jerusalem. Oren Lieberman joins us now. I mean, is there going to be any impact here in terms of the U.S.-Israeli intelligence sharing relationship?
Well, that depends on who you ask. It's important to note that current Israeli intelligence officials haven't said anything on this one. It's already a secretive community to begin with, and they're certainly not going to pop their heads out to comment on this current story coming out of Washington. Israeli politicians are doing everything they can to make it appear as if there is absolutely no damage and no harm will come to the relationship between the Israeli intelligence community and the U.S. intelligence community. And that may very well be the case. The defense minister, as well as the transportation minister, said the depth of that relationship and how wide it is will not in any way be affected by what's happening now. But we're hearing a different message from former intelligence officials who have no horse in the race, no stake here that they're concerned about. The former head of Mossad, which is Israel's spy agency, Danny Yatom, said it's a possible catastrophe if an Israeli source was compromised in the conversations between Trump and the Russians. Here is part of what Yatom had to say.
Israel will have to check the results to find out the damage, to make a damage control, and to talk again to the Americans and telling the Americans that unless we will be sure that such an occurrence is not going to take place again, we will stop transferring very sensitive information to the Americans, because it ruins some of the infrastructure, intelligence infrastructure of our bodies, intelligence bodies.
That's an incredibly big statement coming from someone who is certainly in the know, Danny Yatom, again, the former head of Mossad there. The idea that Israeli intelligence officials might scale back their sharing with the American intelligence community would be an enormous change in the game because of how close these two intelligence communities are. Now, we have spoken with other former officials who say, look, there may be some small localized damage here, but it won't affect the depth of the relationship between these two communities. What they all agree on is they need to know everything. They need to know exactly what was said and how much damage it might cause to an Israeli source.
Oren Lieberman in Jerusalem, thank you. Now, two other American allies have expressed their support for the U.S. and intelligence sharing with Washington. British Prime Minister Theresa May and Australia's Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull each say relations will not change.
We continue to work with the United States and continue to share intelligence with the United States, as we do with others around the world, because we are all working together to deal with the threats that we face.
I can assure you that the relationship between Australia and the United States in terms of intelligence sharing is as close as it possibly could be.
All three countries, along with New Zealand and Canada, are an intel sharing group called the Five Eyes. And every day, it seems like there's a new crisis at the White House, and that's apparently taking a heavy toll on Donald Trump's staff. I want to talk about that with CNN politics producer Dan Merica. He's standing by for us. And what is the discord and what is the impact with the people who go to work at the White House every day?
You know, they're in crisis mode right now is really the only way to put it. Sean Spicer and the rest of the White House team just landed here in Connecticut, where Donald Trump will speak right behind me and turn about 200 cadets here at the Coast Guard Academy into ensigns, and they will go out and protect the nation's borders and maritime facilities. But looming over all of this is the fact that Donald Trump asked FBI Director James Comey to thwart an investigation into his top national security aide, who he ended up firing in February. Now, this has sent reverberations around the country, and especially in Washington, where now even Republicans are talking about the need for a special prosecutor. This comes at a really perilous time for the president. He's about to set off on a 8-day, 5-country foreign trip throughout Europe and the Middle East, where he was hoping, and his White House was hoping, this would be a reset. Put him on a good foot, show him on the international stage working with these international leaders. Now, this comes also that Donald Trump leaked information to the Russians during a White House meeting. That is also looming over this future trip because he's going to be meeting with a number of foreign leaders, and frankly, it's causing some of them to think about, how are we going to be able to talk with the president, who, if he may then leak some of that information to people we didn't really want to share it with. So there's so much going into this week that this speech is, there's a lot looming over this speech more than just the graduation.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw Donald Trump there walking down the stairs of Air Force One, smiling broadly, giving a wave. He's just about to jump into the Beast and drive off to give that commencement address. And I mean, just remember, the White House has pushed back on a lot of this. They said, listen, he didn't share anything inappropriate. But what does this mean politically, particularly for support among Republicans?
Well, it's going to be fascinating to see what Republicans say in the coming days. You heard Speaker Paul Ryan say we're going to follow the facts wherever they go. That's not going to satisfy Democrats, frankly. They're going to want to talk about, a special prosecutor. They're going to want to talk about, frankly, some of them are already talking about impeachment. That may be a little too soon. There's more that needs to come out. But what we've heard already is that FBI Director James Comey took more memos during his meetings with President Trump, meaning there's just more information that is going to be coming out. On a practical matter, this puts Donald Trump's legislative agenda completely in jeopardy. It's hard enough to get things done in Washington. Now imagine doing that when the FBI is investigating people around the president and there's talk of impeachment from Democrats. It basically means very, very little will get done in Washington while all of this is going on, which makes it near impossible for the president to accomplish what he promised during the 2016 election.
Dan Merica there on the ground in Connecticut as the band was playing Hail to the Chief. Thanks so much, and you'll keep us posted on any comments US President Donald Trump makes today. Thank you. Well, let's see comments from Wall Street, essentially how Wall Street is reacting to all of this news out of Washington. It's important. Take a look at the big board. Here you go. In the first hour of trading, the Dow is down now over 1%. After the election, if you remember, stock market surged to record highs. But in the past few weeks, they've been more or less holding ground. We'll keep an eye on those numbers for you. I'm Robin Kerner. You're watching CNN. More news after the break.